Hey everybody, welcome to the new episode of Sapient. Today we are having a special guest. His name is Mr. Rory. Mr. Rory, could you please introduce yourself?
Sure. My name's Rory Lemon, and I am a holistic health coach and osteopath.
hmm So, for those people who are not really familiar with the kind of work that you do, could you just briefly explain what you do on a daily basis as a professional?
For sure, yeah. Coaching generally is about helping someone to achieve what they want to achieve in life. And it could be a skill that they want to achieve, or just getting out of their own emotional patterns from before and moving into a new space. So a new way of doing things, a new way of thinking, a new way of feeling. And so with health, there's a lot of different factors, but I focus on how I've come about managing my own emotional health and mental fitness. So I love the way we can access health through understanding how our mind works and how how our emotions, what and why our emotions are doing, so that so people can really be aware. As soon as we're more aware, able to build on more healthy habits and notice when we are doing unhealthy habits, and achieve better health through understanding the mind, going through into the mind and the emotions, and then connecting to the body. So that's what I'm
So
very
essentially,
interested in.
yeah, got it. So essentially, you're trying to say that the mind is the door to a very healthy life, right?
Yes, but definitely.
Okay. I mean, I have grossly summarized it. Yeah, but could you just help us understand how we can achieve that on a regular basis?
Sure. So um, what I've noticed about where I came from is were patterns, thinking, patterns. I From coming out of school and my school results, I thought,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I'm not an academic person. I'm more of an artistic person. And so
Okay.
that my own belief about that
Mm-hmm.
was extremely keeping me where I believed I was. So that actually underneath that was a resentment that about being a type of intelligent that the system only believes in one way of being intelligent, and I felt like I was intelligent but wasn't able to express that at school. So therefore, I felt like not good enough and not smart enough and
Mm-hmm.
misunderstood. And so I
Okay.
went through life feeling resentment and feeling misunderstood. I didn't realize I was dyslexic until I was 33, when I started to work on studying my master's in osteopathy. And
Mm-hmm.
the reason why I'm saying all of this is because it really,
Mm-hmm.
all the way through my 20s, and some of my
Mm-hmm.
30s, I
Yeah.
was not really I wasn't able to achieve what I'm achieving now. It's taken me this long to understand the patterns of thought telling us things that we're not. A lot of the time, that can happen quite a lot unless we become aware and work on mental fitness. So on a daily basis, I become aware of my thoughts. I listen to my thoughts. I use different types
Mm-hmm.
of tools and techniques to relax and
Mm-hmm.
listen and tap into my the mind finds it is funny. The mind is funny because it feels like it's just one thing we're thinking about, different types of thoughts, but actually some of them are
Mm-hmm.
really useful and some of them are not useful at all, and some of these are negative patterns. And so I catch them myself. This
Uh-huh.
is what the work I do on myself is, to catch those patterns and then
Okay.
self command myself clarity, calm down any emotions that are getting caused by the thoughts. Then
Mm-hmm.
move into what new reality do I want, and what what do I want to achieve? And then I'm able to stay in my vision of what I truly want, future vision of myself. I was looking at past problems,
got it.
self-commanding, and then moving into what I really want to be getting done, and that creates motivation.
And how early of when you were a child, at what age did you really realize that you were different, or you were different when you compare it to the normal norms of the society?
I guess I just believed I was different because I had an awareness that everyone is different in some ways. But what I like about it is that I can notice what's commonly useful across people, across humans. We test out what commonly can work, and then we also look at what is unique about the person. I believe that I had what I call unique learning ability, not a dysfunctional pattern of thinking. I just basically tapped into playing guitar. It kept me feeling safe, and I got to develop my skill, and I didn't have to talk that much. I could just play guitar. And so I didn't practice talking.
Yeah.
And but I did practice music. And so I became a very good listener. I recognize myself as being a very good listener, and I'm only just learning how to communicate verbally and talk my story. That's why I'm here to talk about it to you.
Got it. So once you recognize that you're different, you did really invest in taking the first steps, right? Which was voluntary steps, to learn guitar and to express yourself in some form of way. Okay. So once you started doing that, how early or how late did you see results, where like you really got into habit of expressing yourself?
When are you saying? Do you mean when I really know? I started to shine more?
Yes, correct. When you came into your own character more.
I came into my character more when I was able to start performing guitar bands. I got glimpses of what I loved to do, and I was able to express that my own way. However,
Got it.
it was when it first started, when I really, really thought, oh, this is something that really lights me up, and expressing myself in the way I want to. Then at various points going forwards, there are points where I came across challenges, mental health challenges, because I wasn't expressing myself verbally through my voice. So I didn't know how to ask for help. I didn't know how to
Got it.
Talk through it. And that was to challenge, and then almost illness. I recovered through natural healing methods. I wanted to help others with that. I thought, wow, that's amazing. So I became a massage therapist at that point. So then I became, becoming a massage therapist allowed me to develop that skill. And then when I was developing that skill, I felt like I came into my character more. So what I'm saying really is that I feel that at different stages in life, we go through challenges that can feel bad. They're an opportunity to see what's going on for that, see where we need support, have the support better, then that shapes our character even further. There's been multiple times in my life where I studied a skill based on wanting to do something, and I had the dedication and the motivation and the commitment to doing it because that's what I wanted to do. Essentially learning how to learn. Learn how to learn. So I wanted to pick something. When I had the motivation to do it, I would do it. And then something comes along in life where it's like, I can't carry on doing what I'm doing. I have to learn another life skill in order to maintain being on form, performing well and interacting well with the world.
So at what age, did you really, get stuck on this idea of, I want to help people, and, I want to help people in
that was when I was 24. When I was 20, I got
Mhm.
I had a period of psychosis whereby I was so paranoid and I couldn't talk about my issues very well. And I had reflexology, and for 14 weeks, which is a foot treatment, 14 weeks, and I became better enough to be able to go back to being who I thought I was at the time. And so
Mhm.
that was when I was 24. I started to work with massage, and then was 9 years later, 10 years later, 9 years later. So I became an osteopath. I couldn't carry on doing just the massage anymore. I wanted to become more technically good at what I did and not burn out physically doing physical treatment. I hope that makes
Mhm.
sense.
Yeah, got it. So yeah, I have like a few more like different questions apart from profession. Like when you were a kid, right? And when you compare that time to today's world, do you think that the general attitude towards these kinds of issues have
Which
gotten better?
conditions?
No, similar types of issues that kids
Oh,
face
I
today
see. That's a really good
in the
question.
world.
Yeah. I've thought about this recently. I actually, this morning, in fact, it popped up that I thought that the modern world is obviously changed a lot since I was even a kid. The internet and
Hmm.
options and more information coming at us if we choose to let it come at us. So children
Hmm.
today, I feel, I don't know what it's like to be a kid today, such at that age or any of those
Hmm.
ages. But all I can imagine is that the human mind still goes through the same challenges, and that's been looked at in science, but also from my own
Hmm.
personal understanding, and so understanding how the mind works is still going to be addressing those issues. And I would imagine that it's important. There's a system that doesn't necessarily share information. This is exactly why we do these podcasts and talking about it and raising awareness of this stuff, because it's all about being able to understand more about how to manage ourselves, because the system doesn't necessarily give information like this that can help. So it's
Hmm.
a bit of a long way round of saying that I can only imagine that there's different challenges for children
Hmm.
these days, but it's also some stuff that can really help generally with our minds as humans. So I know that there's courses that help children with their mental fitness. It's only just kind of starting to come about, but yeah.
Hmm. Got it. So, you're essentially saying that today's kids have far more better access to tools and like treatments than you
Yeah,
had in your childhood,
I
right?
mean, what I did, I wasn't even recognised as dyslexic. So there's more known about how the brain works.
Hmm.
Sure, whether that information
Yeah.
is translated into the schools or not is another thing.
Hmm.
So
Yeah. It's almost like people back then even failed to acknowledge these kind of issues existed. Where today we do have I think enough mechanisms and awareness with just common folk
mm.
that they're able to recognize these kind of issues.
And as I like to think of it, there's only so much we can go round thinking about the issues, and that's where my ideas around functionality come in. Osteopathy is about looking for where the function is in the body,
Hmm.
manual treatment. Also, with the health coaching, it's also to find out, yes, there might be some
Hmm.
negative patterns going on, but we also have to look at what someone really wants to achieve. Otherwise, they can't focus on it. Focusing on how to win in a situation, focusing on what works, so important. Because someone can get diagnosed with a health condition or mental, or a neurodivergent condition. Neurodivergent meaning things like ADHD, autism,
Hmm.
dyslexia, Tourette's, bipolar, OCD, all of those kind of recognizable patterns in our brains, that's a sort of neurological pattern. And then you might have a health condition that's more like diabetes or heart condition, and that's a physical recognized condition. And so understanding these 2 points and their reference points is, but if you just focus on the problem, what happens is it doesn't allow to see what's possible to change. Can't say we can cure or fix things for sure, but what we can do is know where to look at the positive angles on it and look at the strengths. So for looking at the strengths of, say for instance, my strengths I'm able to see patterns in things very easily because I've got used to listening and looking and observing without trying to focus on the problem as such. So I see where things might work, might interact. I see a lot of patterns in things. That's what typically a lot of dyslexics are good at doing. And so, focusing on the functionality is so important, because when someone can come out of focusing on the weaknesses that in themselves, focus on the strengths, and then once they feel strong enough, they could look at the weaknesses and then start to train those. So, for instance, here's a good example. When I was studying masters, and I insisted on the test because it didn't come up on the basic test as it didn't come up as very, what's the word? It came up as very mild, and they said, a neurotypical person can come up as mild on a bad day, so we don't want to give you the full test, dyslexia. And I insisted twice until I got it. Then when it came through, and then then I had basically mentorship, mentoring, dyslexia support, laptop that I could speak into, things like that. And I was suggested I could look at speed reading. As soon as I knew because I was studying how the brain worked for the osteopathy, I saw how mine was different at the same time. It was really interesting to see what a normal brain function is doing, and then where my peaks and troughs were, my strengths and weaknesses, or whatever you want to call them, were. And then I went, okay, right, I can look at how to speed read. I relax. Speed reading is all about relaxing and just letting the brain observe what's there, which is exactly what I would do for music or anything else. So I started to be able to not get tired by words, and I was able to read. I can read now. I can get tired if it's a lot to read, or if it's new information. If someone's speaking a lot to me and it's new information, or there's certain things that haven't shifted as much, but I don't. I can now read and write really, really fine. That's it. Yeah. So
Got it. So, like you were your own, test subject, right? In terms of understanding how a brain works. Okay.
At that point, I was. I studied osteopathy, and then
right. Yeah. So, could you just help us understand?
Yeah. So,
what does
osteopathy is a system of healthcare that looks at the body holistically, and is all about manual treatment. It's basically it's still like going for an advanced massage, a bit like physiotherapy and chiropractic. It's got a more of a holistic understanding of the body, so that, again, looking at what's functional, seeing what's possible to make better. And that's what it's like, a body. You could say it's a body mechanic, or it's functional healthcare, and it's all about communication and the philosophies behind how the body maintains itself.
Got it. So, like, of course, there are criticisms about osteopathy, in general, that have been part of discussion of osteopathy, for a long time, right? Come up.
Yeah, I mean, there's always ways to question things. That's actually what osteopathy is. We don't necessarily see the background of what osteopathy is. They only see what it is when you go to see someone. There's a problem in. So what goes on in the background is a very rigorous scientific base to it, but at the same time, science can't necessarily say what is possible and what isn't for individuals and health conditions. Health is very complex, so it can often get criticised potentially by it not working, for instance, when it tries to. But everyone, even a relationship between a practitioner and a patient can either work or not. Someone might be just not understanding that personality, the way that someone describes something. And each osteopath can specialize in particular areas. So it's all about finding the osteopath that you prefer, for instance, that works for you. It's a lot more fluid than it is solid in terms of rigorousness. So some people don't like that. They want, to know that they go to the car, take their car to the mechanic, and they get told exactly what's wrong with it, and then they get the part replaced. That's not the same as health. Whereas when you go to see a doctor, they have the science, but only have a Western science, Western medicine. Goes, okay, you've got this. This is what we do generically. That doesn't necessarily work for everyone either. So it's always about questioning and making sure and finding what works again. So that's what I love about osteopathy, is that actually it's dynamic and it's useful in that way, but at the same time can take some time for a sort of for results, or I should just say improvements to show. Sometimes you get really marked improvement very quickly, and sometimes it's slower depending on the person. And it's always about depending on the person.
Got it. So earlier you said that there are multiple schools of thoughts in terms of how we can treat a patient in osteopathy, right? So my question now is, let's say a patient is looking to get treated with using osteopathic treatment. So how do they go about
generally
choosing the correct doctor? Because there
standardized
are multiple, schools of thought.
So it's always useful to go to one. Just if you don't know, or you can ask someone who does, or you can ask an osteopath, recommend and mention what's going on, and see whether they are the kind of person, because they're going to be open to find. They want the best result for the person, not just to treat randomly. So it's always about asking for the support that's necessary. And so that's what I would suggest. And
yeah. Okay. So approaching
so an osteopath or someone that's been to an osteopath
who understands osteopathy,
getting some researching, seeing what's online about osteopathy and the type and the person.
Yes,
osteopaths that are online, they explain on their websites what they do, and whether it's more standard work or whether there's usually a standard work that's basic, and then there's more specialisms like pregnancy or even horses.
Got it. Yeah, I have. I think I may have seen not osteopathy, but I might have seen few chiropractic videos. Where they're treating animals and they're helping animals with some sort of pain or all these things.
I've been practicing osteopathy, yes, and before that I was doing clinical massage work.
Okay, so that's around 7 years.
8-9 years before that too. And so really, what I'd love to share is that obviously I'm also, since the pandemic, I've been moving into the coaching space to be able to work online with people's mental fitness, like I mentioned at the start of that too. So that's also my specialism is now moving to and doing less physical work and more wanting to help people so that they can take control of their own health, not just rely on the therapy side of things.
So you help people in terms of their mental health and how they should react to a situation, and is that sort of coaching? Okay. And just few more questions. Let's say a person wants to sign up to the
Okay,
one-on-one
so
coaching or the
I
services that you're
so I
providing.
don't know whether there's
Where could
a
they
way
find you?
to give you a link to share, but I can offer what I offer is an introductory
Mhm.
clarity call where I call it the Find Your Place in the World or strategy session. That's the reason why I offer that is because again, it's just like with the osteopathy. It's like knowing whether it's something that's right for you. That's important. So that's why I offer that. And I've got links I can share. I don't. I'm Rory Lemonade.
Mhm.
So that's Lemon AID. Rory Lemonade on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn.
Got it.
And my own website is lemonade.xyz.
Mm-hmm. Got it. I'll put those links in the description of the episode. Just the topic in general. Yeah, I mean, it's more of a question rather than a criticism. So they are asking, how can the neurodiversity perspective reconcile the value of striving for normal functioning with the
So
belief in embracing
this is actually a good
neurodivergent traits
example
and experiences?
because it's quite a long question, and because I can only using my auditory processing,
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually finding it difficult to understand the
Yeah.
question, and that's because I would be if I was with someone and I could
Mm-hmm.
see their lips moving, I would understand the question. So if you could speak as clearly as possible and slowly,
Uh-huh.
I'll pick it up.
Got it. Uh-huh. Okay. So the question is essentially, I will also try to shorten the question. See, the question is about one thing. In neurodiversity, right? In let's say we are talking about neurodiversity. So the question here is very simple. That when let's say a person is striving for normal functioning, okay, but with the belief in embracing
So
neurodivergent traits
still
and
don't get the
experiences.
question. So there's I'm not quite sure about what the question is
Mm-hmm.
saying. Sorry.
No issues, no issues. We can.
Neurodiversity
Sure,
explains
sure, sure.
or
Yeah.
refers to all human
Mm-hmm.
spectrum in which we learn, react, and respond to stimulus, and so
Mm-hmm.
that can include what is seen as neurotypical in terms of how
Mm-hmm.
people normally learn and their output and their input of their processing, and then there's all the way through to more neurodivergent ways in which people learn, take in, and give out information. And so neurodivergence is a particularly recognized
Mm-hmm.
set of traits that can be seen as
Mm-hmm.
particular type of traits. So dyslexia, autism, these different traits behave in known different ways, but even that is just labels to show that it's more likely that they're like this. A lot of neurodivergence are finding out more and more that there's a lot of mix between the two, and some might have ADHD and autism, some might be dyslexic and autistic, or a number of them. So yes, so I like to say neurodiversity for neurodiverse is
Okay. So
leaning
it's probably a
towards
combination of
feeling
multiple things.
more unique than normal, but it also includes normal. and neurodivergent is to say that I'm more of a fixed way
Got it.
that is actually recognized.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So yeah, as a part of research, for the podcast, I just looked up in the Google. I found your I think clinic where you're practicing on Google Maps and everything, and I saw you do have pretty good reviews, from the patients. If you're okay with it, could you just share a story or how
So
a doctor and patient relationship revolves in these kind of
shall I
situations?
talk about a particular coaching or a particular osteopathy? Because I'm more focusing on coaching at the moment, but it did really me. Okay. Yes. So
Yes, coaching would be better.
a lady came to me and was not sleeping well and had basically a difficult relationship she was going through. So there was a point where they were living in the same house, and so they were sort of splitting up, but had kids as well to deal with. So there was work on their mental fitness, which is basically a recognised foundational training program of 7 weeks. It's worked really well with groups, so it's with group coaching and training around how to manage the mind, become focused, and have mental clarity, and also work on how to shift those negative patterns into something positive. She was able to become non-reactive, less reactive. She was able to sleep better. She was able to stop the patterns of anxiety around what might happen, knowing that because it's really about understanding it from a sage perspective, which is what I love to talk about. Understanding the sage perspective, which is to not be caught up in the challenge negatively, but to be able to understand how to know that to let go of that story allows us to then deal with the challenge better and stay stress resilient.
Got it. Yeah. So I had just few more questions. Let's say because we have a very wide variety of listeners that are tuning in to listen to this episode, and let's say there is a person who is not let's say he's just a normally functioning person. What would be your tips for them to just improve their quality of
really life? About understanding again the mind here, and so typically what I like to call which we train people in understanding how to recognize that negative emotions are a bit like how pain works. There's signals, and they're there to tell us something. So if I touch a hot stove by mistake, the brain places pain there immediately so that I can know that I've got my hand and I'm going to burn it if I don't take it away again.
Yep.
And with negative emotions like fear, shame, guilt, anger, frustration, some of them are more useful than others. It depends on whether we're actually expelling them or not. But if you can imagine that if our human minds have forgotten to take ourselves away from feeling like that. So if you imagine if when you're feeling upset or guilty about something, or shameful, or just sad about something, is that to ruminate on it, to keep yourself going over that and feeling that, but going over the thoughts about it, not necessarily feeling the emotion properly, but just worrying about the worry. It's what ends up being, worrying about the worry, not actually about the worry itself or the root cause of the worry. So with the worry of the worry, we are holding our hand on the stove. That makes sense?
Yes, correct.
So
got it.
I wouldn't say damage. But I would say that it just keeps the pattern there. The more time we are holding on to it,
the more damage it's going to cause.
Then means that
it's going to cause us, right?
If you imagine that we've got muscles in the brain, for instance, confidence can be a muscle to build, or feeling love can be a muscle to build upon, and so is sadness and worry. So if we are feeling that, and we believe that we should be feeling that for some reason, and we just get more of it because it becomes easier to go there. So stress. Yeah, so overwhelm becomes easier to become overwhelmed because it's a muscle.
Yeah, because we're concentrating on the wrong things of life.
So if we can go, okay, I put that down. I really focus on not thinking about that. Self-command.
Got it.
using it. The mindfulness has come about recently, and in a lot in health. Because of the pandemic and people wanting to manage their emotions and their anxieties and stuff. So understanding mindfulness is the way to stop lifting the worry muscles and to start lifting the opposite, more positive stuff, and positive emotions. And so really, if you think about the signal is not to worry more. The signal of worry is to command yourself from not thinking about that anymore. And then we start to work. We can then the coaching helps to start working on building the actual muscles of
Understood.
Confidence and happiness, and it's truly wanted to be worked on. Sure.
Okay, so I had one more question for you. What would you
Could you say it again, please?
People who say that displaying emotion or showing emotion is for weak people. Yeah. So the question is, what would you say to those people?
Very interesting topic. That's probably that could be a whole podcast
showing emotion
in itself.
Is for weak people, weak-minded people.
Yeah. So that's really interesting because
yes, correct.
How I see that. This is the way I see things is that as humans, we are built to feel what others feel naturally. We are built with mirror neurons in the brain. When we see someone struggling, in a normal brain function would be to feel that. Without taking awareness of whether it's useful or not, we would automatically do that, able to make sure that we are staying safe as a tribe.
Yes, correct.
And the thing is that in this modern times, is that's not necessarily helpful because we're interacting with so many other people that are dealing with a lot of stuff. And so to have empathy is very important because that neutralizes self-judgment and the judgment of others. Real, true empathy is a positive emotion, positive power that we have. When we see something and have sympathy, we feel it. So sympathy isn't necessarily useful when it's negative emotions because we're not, then we're caught up in it. So if someone is expressing their emotions, a kid is screaming, upset, maybe they can't explain why, and we're told to suppress the emotions. That ends up being difficult for the person, So it's knowing how to express the emotions well and also not get affected by other people's emotions. That's training. That's what I call the Jedi training of ourselves as humans, which is possible. It's all mental fitness work that can be worked on to help us to choose when we want to be sympathetic, for instance, when it's positive, and be empathetic when there's negative fear-based emotions, because then we can actually adapt and help the clear-headed focus.
Okay. Okay. And do you think that today's technology and the way we consume content or the way we react to stuff instantly has some
do you think it's caused by stress,
contribution to the rise in mental illness or people dealing with a lot of trauma or stress? No, I'm saying because the way we are consuming content, be it music, video, audio, any form of content, because the way or the at the pace that we are consuming content today, do you think it has a significant
what we are choosing to absorb
to
what
our
we believe
stress
is necessary
or
to
mental health?
absorb from content will be affecting our beliefs and reinforcing those things. So for sure, if there's a lot of information, we allow it to come in, other people's opinions, and believe them or not believe them, and try to actually, if we're just affected by that. There's a really interesting correlation that I read once around people self-expressing themselves on social media, for instance, and seeing amazing skills, like watching other people have amazing skills and amazing talents
Mm-hmm.
all day, for instance, and install the idea of perfectionism,
Yeah.
because it's taken that person years to develop that amazing skill. And if we're just watching it, we're staying still
Mm-hmm.
whilst watching them do it. We're not actually in activity ourselves, expressing the way we want to. And I'm not saying that it's not useful to absorb and see and be inspired by other people. When it's overly done,
Correct.
so much information and seeing other people's opinions, not expressing our own opinion, and we're staying still whilst watching it all. So our body gets affected
Yes.
as well, because if we're not moving all day or counteracting the stillness, that can also affect us, right? Because movement is clearing our bodies. But there's the stillness, there's the physical stillness, there's the impressed upon by the, and then that affects our immune system. So there's this idea around perfectionism,
Yes, I agree with you.
of expression or lack of it, and lack of movement, and also it then affects the immune system. And then if
Yeah, I think I have a very good example for, as you said, the physical movement. Because I see, if you just go into any office or any professional kind of scenario, or even in personal lives, when a person is really involved in a phone call, let's say he's really invested, and they really have to work their brains
like to
in order to talk and discuss a few things, right? Those people really like to walk or pace
very
in a very smaller area,
very important.
just to get
I
that
think that's
physical
one of the things that I
stimulation
came
in
up
for
with
their
my
brain to,
lymphatic health
let's say, work
exercise
properly.
as well, was to recognize the importance of counteracting the stillness. So we can't avoid being still when we're doing things on technology. But what we can do is see how much we're staying still and how much we're moving in a day, and counteracting it. So, for instance, an hour walk is the same as like the lymphatic system and the body to clear the stress chemicals and the waste products that get created by the body. Clearing all of that, 1 hour walk or a 10 minutes of 15 minutes of vigorous exercise can be equal. So it's like looking at how fast you can move or slow you can move, and making it longer and slower, or faster and shorter in terms of the body. Looking at specifically at just the body and clearing it physically, then yeah, it's a very good point.
Correct. So yeah, because even I talk on regular basis. I go and appear as a guest on many podcasts, and of course this is my podcast. It is very hard for me to sit down for 60 minutes or 90 minutes and just to talk, because sometimes talks like this that we're having currently requires a lot of like data processing in terms of what we're learning, and what we have to say, and what we have to understand. When that amount of data, or the conversation dwells into a deeper level, even me sitting down, I find it very hard to stay zoned in, stay concentrated. Yeah, it's a very big issue for me. But because of the studio, the way it is set,
Yes.
I can the best I can do is I can just stand up and talk.
So
Yeah, but I still end up
share my
craving for that some
lymphatic
kind
health
of
exercise
physical
stuff
movement.
with you as well, with my links, because there's they're designed to help people with moving efficiently, are staying still, for So yeah.
Okay.
Great.
That would be very helpful. Even for me and for my listeners. Because most of us are working in concrete jungles, where we are sitting in one place for at least 6 to 7 hours,
Amazing. Yeah, well, I can certainly put that link in.
So of course, you are
well,
like
if you look
kind of
up
professional
Lymph
guidance
Jam
and
as
tips
well,
and
then as LYM
suggestions would be very helpful for us.
JIM. That's what I do to help those that want to get moving a little bit, but efficiently, so they don't have much time. They can just do 5 minutes or do 20 minutes, and the idea behind that is not to focus on the problem again. We're not going to try to fix anything. It's just to see what's possible to help clear the body and refresh the emotions and refresh the mind.
Got it. Yeah, sure. I will. I'll make sure to put those valuable links in the episode description, so that our listeners can also take better benefits of this. So yeah, Rory, it was very nice talking to you, because this is a topic I think that's not discussed enough out there, because it's probably not entertaining as Kim Kardashian's maybe. So yeah, it was very enlightening to have a this brief chat with you, of course, because you have enough experience and you have enough knowledge where we could shoot 5 to 6 episodes. I'm pretty sure about that. Yeah. So yeah, it was very nice talking to you, because you were very precise and very
really
let's say compact and efficient. The way you
putting this
delivered
on, this is really important.
A lot of information within just
really
this small block of episode.
Those that dedicate themselves to helping share good quality information. I've got one last thing I can say, and because I mentioned before, I was afraid to. I was kind of like afraid I was kind of afraid to speak up and communicate my ideas
so
properly.
Much. Because
and I, from the mental exhaustion and illness, and the diagnosis of dyslexia gave me relief. That I was like really craving. I could relax and be me in social situations, but really, at that point, I could start to choose not to get frustrated, and it felt like that time the sky was the limit. Now today, I feel that there are no limits, because when we create and to create and build the life of dreams, it's really about I went from the fear of not being smart enough or rejection, using my voice, and I created a 21-day summit in November, enrolling and interviewing expert speakers, guiding all the conversations, and becoming the expert facilitating that clear communication. So, what's possible to change in the brain, for me at least, I come from that place of understanding that myself. And so when I believe that when you combine the power of self-expression with the power of unrestricted neurodiverse thinking, we can access the power of the unique learning ability within us. There are no limits. There are no limits to what we can do, and no limits to who we can be. Where and there's no limits to what we can achieve. There are no limits.
Got it. So yeah, I think you have summarized this podcast very perfectly in the last 2-3 minutes of our chat. Yeah. So it was very nice talking to you. Hopefully, I will have you once more on the podcast in the future somewhere, so that we can talk even more, go into more depth, and also of course you can share more valuable information with us. Because the country I come from, India, here mental health and these sort of issues are still very fresh. They're still being worked on, and there are many awareness campaigns, and there are many psychiatrists and people who have suffered mental issues. They have almost sacrificed their lives, and they have gone through a life of mission where they have made sure to spread awareness as much as they could. So I think these type of conversations are very important, because it might not be entertaining, it might not be funny, it might not be sarcastic, but it's like the building block of life, where like A person with
Very
any
well said. Thank you,
a given mental
Ash. And
issues should
all
also
I
have a
all I
similar
would add to
quality
that
of life
is that
when you compare it to a normal functioning
that
person.
it's really about looking at what's best of traditional ideas around medicine and healing and health care, and also taking into account what is possible from or new as well, and
Mm-hmm.
it is we are different from where we were at in the past. But some of the older practices, there was some really good stuff in there, and still really can help. But yeah, the mental fitness work is just, for me, really, that's new. That's new because it's really about, we grew up with our minds as humans growing up really quickly. Suddenly, lots to think about, and actually now we get to retrain that new mind back to the body. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So this is the end of the episode, guys. Thank you very much for again, getting through the show, and hope to entertain you and keep you knowledgeable in the long term. See you in the next episode. Thank you very much.
Facebook and Instagram, yeah, sure, I
Because
can
this
do that.
helps
Yeah.
us support
And I'll send
our
you
guests
my link.
and helps them
It has
also
all the different things on there. It has the
in
booking
order to
link for
stay
my
motivated
free
to do better
strategy
things.
session. It also has
So
the Lymph
yeah,
Jam
thank you very much,
playlist, and it has all my social medias on there.
Yeah, sure.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. Sure. You kindly share it with me, so that I will just make sure that I'm going to put that